right?
Oh yeah.
How are the first few days workouts been?
Let's see, we started last Friday, so it's been good. You know, obviously we got poor weather coming in. So we're heading over to Globe Life, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which will be nice. So we'll get indoors and not skip a beat. It's gone good. You know, challenged them on Sunday. Sunday's always a day where it's attitude wins, you know, especially after a long weekend, right? You play a game on Friday, you play a game on Saturday. Sunday's always an attitude day. So you're either trying to sweep a series, not get swept, or try to win a series on a Sunday. And so I challenged them on Sunday. Halfway through the practice, I thought it was going very average. Halfway through the practice, and kind of reiterated what my thoughts were for what Sunday means to a season. And so I thought they rebounded well on Sunday. We had a workout yesterday, and then obviously today with the rain and the forecast coming in, we'll be a little bit more indoors today, but we won't skip a beat Thursday through Sunday.
Kirk, what have you found now that you're in the job as the head man that you didn't realize would take up as much of your time, or that you would have to spend time on that maybe you just didn't realize?
Yeah, probably everything. Like, I can't wait to get on the baseball field a lot of days, right? Because all the office stuff in terms of, you know, everything non-baseball related, really. You know, you're in charge of 40 young men and your support staff. So, you know, you're looking at 75 people that you're in charge of, and to make sure that it's being run the way you want it to be ran, and for people to be, you know, trying to excel at their highest level. I think, you know, it's instead of having 3 kids back home, you know, and now I have 40, right? In terms of making sure the baseball stuff I'm not worried about, right? We get on the field and that's kind of comes second nature, but it's everything off the field, making sure that we're, you know, in the right classes, that we're taking care of the classroom, off the field, you know, all the different things in terms of pulling you away from maybe the coaching side of it. I think that's the biggest difference, is just, you know, probably all the other hours in the day where you're spending time on things not baseball related. Which actually I found enjoyment in some of it. Some of it I'm like, oh. Sometimes that recruiting coordinator and pitching coach job looks pretty good sometimes when you're dealing with some of the other stuff.
Kirk, Coach Stocks is just talking football-wise about all the transfers he, you know, brought in. You guys, I think, have 4 graduate transfers. How have they looked, and how important is that, you know, just across the board, regardless of sport? Too?
Yeah, they've been huge. You know, you got, like you said, we have 4 guys from 4 really good universities. You know, Brett Walker, you know, he started at Oregon last year on Sundays. He's been a big part of their program prior to coming here, so he'll slate into one of those starting roles for us. Tommy Vale came from Notre Dame and has been a reliable bullpen arm for them, so we're looking for him to do the same here. Michael Petrie, a guy from University of Washington, that's going to challenge Curtis Byrne and our other guys for the starting catching role. And then you have Caleb Bolden from Arkansas, that's kind of our Charles King, if you will, in terms of the Swiss Army knife, can do anything in any role. So you have 4 guys that have come from 4 Power 5 conferences that have been there and have done that. So when you're kind of building your team, you rely on them a little bit more than, say, a guy that from a junior college or a high school player, just because you know they have a little bit more of a track record at this level. So going forward, we're going to save probably a scholarship and a couple roster spots every summer so that we can go out and identify the right grad transfers for our program. And those 4 guys, the greatest thing about them, besides the baseball stuff, is they've come into our program and our culture and have fit in perfectly. You know, academically, I think 2 of those 3 guys were 4.0s, just phenomenal. The other 2 were 3.0 and higher. So phenomenal students, but phenomenal young men are going to fit seamlessly in our program and play a big role. So we're going to recruit the portal pretty hard every year.
On the other side of that,
them fitting in your culture. I know you're not new to the program, but as now the head guy, what's that been like for you building your own culture?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to the previous head coach in terms of, you know, we've had a lot of guys. Obviously, I've been here for 10 years, and you know, if you look back 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it's been the same culture, and so we've continued to add to that. We've continued to, you know, hit home on those, you know, 3 areas: selfless, excellence, and energy, right? Because that's an all-encompassing deal for a program, and it's easy to say and just say it in the first team meeting and then not live it. But the great thing is we have so many kids that have been here for a while and have they pass it down year to year. So it starts at the top, but then it also just trickles down to your returning players. And, you know, we had a lot of professors and head department of chairs at the baseball field last night for an event. And the common theme was our players are a pleasure to have in the classroom. You know, and I think that it sets the tone from when the older guys show the younger guys what it's like. So culture is a buzzword. You want to have it, but you have to live it every day. And so I think that's the great thing about our program is that everybody involved really hasn't skipped a beat. And we've added little things here and there to what we'd like to have with our program, but for the most part, it really hasn't changed a bunch.
Coach, you talked about grad transfers, but on the other side of the coin, you have a pretty highly rated freshman class coming in. Who in that group has started to stand out, and who are you really looking forward to contributing early?
You know, we've had a lot of we've had a lot of injuries from the pitching side of it from that freshman class, which is disappointing. Really, they came in with it. We have 3 guys that haven't thrown a competitive pitch since they've got on campus, which is disappointing, and a couple guys that are working their way back. So, but from the position player side, I'm very encouraged. You know, I think it was 2014 and 15 when we started our role, when we had, you know, the Lucan Baker and Josh Watson, freshman All-Americans, and then I think it was actually Connor Wanhanen, Lucan Baker, Josh Watson, and you had 3 or 4 position player guys that were freshman All-Americans in consecutive years, right? So you have that group of kids that are going to be together for 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 seasons, and I feel like that's what we're building right now. Our sophomore class played a ton last year. The Elijah Nunez, Luke Boyers, Braden Taylors, they played a ton last year. And so now you bring in another position class, you know, the David Bishops, who could play third base, but obviously Braden Taylor's there. We're going to probably play him a lot at first base. He's a guy that's really opened our eyes in terms of getting a ton of playing time. You know, the Hunter Toplanskis, Logan Maxwell, an outfielder from Ohio that's really challenging our outfield. It's going to be really hard for us to keep him out of the lineup. So you have, you know, that kind of nucleus of young freshman position players to go along with our sophomores. We're really excited about this year, but then also building from a position player standpoint of next year as well. So now we just got to have, you know, we have an older group on the mound. So that's not to say we're not going to use some of those freshman arms. We need to get some of those guys healthy, but we're going to bring probably those freshman arms a little bit slower because of the opportunities the older guys are going to take.
Because you have those older guys, does that maybe help you take more time with these young guys to get them right, get them fully healthy?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think we're going to take our time regardless because it's kind of a marathon. It's not a race, especially we want to be the best that we can be at the end of the season. And we don't want to rush anybody back. So we're taking our time with some guys. And but the great thing is Cam Brown and Riley Cornelio, 2 guys that have had a little bit of run in their first couple of years at TCU on the mound, have really taken a step forward over the summer and then into the fall, and then have brought it this spring. So we're really excited for those 2 guys in terms of kind of a coming out party for them in terms of what they're doing right now. And obviously Austin Crowe, like we talked about, Brett Walker, Marcelo Perot. We have a ton of guys, ton of innings, and a ton of versatility with our pitching staff that I think will be fun to be able to kind of, you know, figure out what the best possible rotation is, what the best possible middle inning guys, late inning guys. But there's a ton of versatility that we can have a lot of guys do a lot of different things, which will be fun, but it'll also be hard in terms of making sure we get the right guy in at the right time.
What led to those young guys in their situation, those young pitchers? Is it a trend that you're seeing? Are they throwing too much in select ball leading into it? Is it taking too long into fall with Jupiter? What is it?
I think it's everything that you said. I think, you know, a lot of the guys that we're seeing that have some of these injuries are local, you know, warm weather areas where you can play baseball year round. And a lot of times we always tell them, let's play other sports. So you put the baseball down. And, you know, at some point, you can try and do everything you can possibly do, but at some point, if a guy's going to get hurt, a guy's going to get hurt. But if we can try and limit their innings for the most part from their 14 to 18-year-old years, you know, you don't need to throw 100 innings at, you know, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, right? If you play in other sports, you're probably playing, you know, pitching 30, 40 innings a year, and then you're putting the baseball down, playing football, playing basketball, soccer, whatever it may be. And now guys are just throwing harder, sooner. They're stronger. They're training harder. And I think a lot of times these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, their ligaments, tendons, muscles aren't ready for some of the bulk and the load that they're putting on their bodies. So, you know, we do a phenomenal job once we get them to campus, taking them through a screening with Coach Danny Wheat, the Ben Hogan Center, to try and identify some possible things in the future. But a lot of times we get a lot of guys that are coming in, like I said, that are already banged up that, man, they haven't thrown a competitive pitch in the 6 months they've been here. So it's tough. It's really tough because we've committed these guys long before they got hurt. And, you know, we've stuck by their side. We haven't taken scholarships back or anything like that. We've been alongside them and trying to get them healthy, you know, and sometimes it's harder to do than it is to say it. So
You mentioned him.
You're still okay if you're pitching depth, even if these freshmen are banged up?
yeah, for this year I am. My worry is then for next year, the following year, right? So that's where the grad transfers come in. You know, that's where the junior college player comes in, where you identify throughout, obviously the fall, but then in the spring, the season of, all right, who do we have coming back? And what are their roles gonna be? Are they a starter? Are they a reliever? And then identify, okay, we need to get a couple JUCO pitchers, or hey, we need to maybe get 3 or 4 grad transfers to supplement maybe some of the either recruiting misses that we've made in terms of maybe the guy that isn't quite good enough, or the injuries where guys might not even be able to toe the rubber, you know, for TCU just because of an injury situation. So, you know, it's always like a 3 or 4 year window when you're looking at your current roster. You know, what's your team, you're looking at this year, but you're also looking at what's next year gonna look like. So we're real encouraged from the offensive side. Now it's about trying to get those guys healthy, get them some innings, help them develop, and then also, you know, keep them healthy. So, yeah, the JUCO and the grad transfer, we're gonna hit pretty hard this offseason.
We'll have 2 more questions.
You mentioned Braden earlier. Just where would you like to see him develop and grow? Obviously, he had a great freshman year.
Yeah, I think, you know, everyone always says sophomore slump. I'm not worried about how Braden, he's a really good hitter in terms of the best hitters can handle the most pitches, right? The more pitches you can handle, the better hitter you're gonna be. And Braden does a really good job of that. I think the big thing for him is not trying to do too much. You know, he had a lot of veteran guys around him last year in terms of in the order, where he probably didn't feel like he needed to do too much. And that's probably usually what happens in a sophomore year is, okay, I had a freshman year, I need to do better than what I did my freshman year. And we're all about not comparing yourself to what you did last year. It's about today, it's about this year, and not comparing yourself to years past. Take care of today, be as good as you can today, and try and get better today. And Braden does that as consistently as anybody, and I think that's why, you know, you see the success he's had. You know, he plays a great third base. Could he play shortstop for us? Yes. Could he play second base? Yes. The versatility's off the charts. So he'll play third for us, and you know, I just feel like he just does what he does. Not worried about Braden and his mentality or trying to live up to any expectations. He's just a ball player and loves to play baseball.
Any more questions?
Real quick on the NIL, trickling into college baseball,
Yeah.
could there be an advantage for college baseball when it comes to a kid who's got to determine, hey, if I'm going to go pro, if I'm going to go to college, now that the NIL dollar is in there, in addition to the education, compete with what he's going to get?
Absolutely. Anytime you can make it less expensive for a kid that's deciding, do I take money from Major League Baseball, or do I, in most scenarios, do I end up paying to go to college, right? And so anytime that you can kind of supplement that with maybe some NIL opportunities to hang on to a kid, I think is a huge win for college baseball. I think that's why you're seeing college baseball as good as it's been in a long, long time in terms of the players that we're getting, because the MLB draft has been shortened. We're getting more players that might have signed coming to college. So from a baseball perspective, it's as good as it's been. And I think it's going to continue that way just because of, like you said, the NIL money. There's a lot of programs in the country that really value college baseball and have stepped up in a way to help out financially through NIL, which I think can only benefit college baseball and especially TCU. You know, if you look at TCU baseball and the history of our fans showing up and their support and their love for springtime baseball, you know, it's showing up in terms of our guys, you know, being helped out through NIL, and I look forward to it helping us out even more. You bet. All right.